أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله إن الله وإنا إليه راجعون Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Al-Islam, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. The title of this piece is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the Book of Injustices, Sahih Al Bukhari, Volume 2, Book 46 of the Correct Traditions of Al Bukhari. Mohammed bin Ismail Al Bukhari, and translated by Mohammed Mahdi Al'Sharif of Dar Al Kotob, ilmiyah, Beirut Lebanon. The Book of Injustices. And Allah saying, think not that Allah doth not heed the deeds of those who do wrong. He but giveth them respite against the day when the eyes will fixedly stare in horror, they running forward with necks outstretched, their hearts a gaping void. So warn mankind of the day when the wrath will reach them. Then will the wrongdoers say, our Lord, respite us, if only for a short term. We will answer thy call and follow thy messengers. What, were ye not wont to swear aforetime that ye should suffer no decline, and ye dwelt in the dwellings of men who wronged their own souls? Ye were clearly shown how we dealt with them, and we put forth many parables in your behalf. Mighty indeed were the plots that they made, but their plots were well within the sight of Allah, even though they were such as to shake the hills. Never think that Allah would fail His messengers and His promise, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exalted in power, Lord of retribution. Surah Abraham, Surah 42, Ayat 47. First section of Book 46, the law of equality regarding the injustices. Hadith number 2440. Abu Sa'id Al-Khudri radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when the believers pass safely over the bridge across hell, they will be stopped at a bridge in between hell and paradise, where they will retaliate upon each other for the injustices done among them in the world. When they get purified of all their sins, they will be admitted into paradise. By He in whose hands the life of Muhammad is, everybody will recognize his dwelling in paradise better than he recognizes his dwelling in this world. Section 2. Allah is saying, behold, Allah's curse be upon the wrongdoers. Hud 18. Hadith number 2441. Safwan ibn Muhriz al-Mazini narrated, while I was walking in the company of Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu, a man met us and asked him, what did you hear from the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam concerning Allah's confidential talk to His slaves? He replied, I heard Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, Allah will bring a believer near him to be sheltered with his screen and ask him, did you commit such and such sins? He will say, yes, my Lord. Allah will keep on asking him till he will confess all of his sins and will think that he is ruined. Allah will say, I did screen your sins in the world, and I forgive them for you today. Then he will be given the book of his good deeds. Regarding infidels and hypocrites, their evil acts will be exposed publicly, and the witnesses will say, these are the people who lied against their Lord. Behold, the curse of Allah be upon the wrongdoers. Hud 18. Section 3. The Muslim should not oppress his Muslim brother, nor should he hand him over to an oppressor. Hadith 2443. Anas radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, help your brother, whether he is an oppressor or he is an oppressed one. Hadith 2444. Anas radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, help your brother, whether he is an oppressor or he is an oppressed one. People asked, O Allah's Apostle, it is all right to help him if he is oppressed, but how should we help him if he is an oppressor? The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, by preventing him from oppressing others. Hadith number 2445. Al-Barr ibn Azib narrated, the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered us to do 7 things and forbade us to do 7 things. He mentioned to visit the patient, to inquire about his health, to follow the funeral processions, to say to the sneezer if he said, praise be to Allah, may Allah's mercy be upon you, to return back the greeting, to help the oppressed one to take his right, to respond to one's invitation, and to help one to fulfill his oath. Hadith number 2446. Abu Burda narrated from Abu Musa radhiyallahu anhu that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a believer to another believer is like a building whose different parts enforce each other. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam then clasped his hands with his fingers interlaced. Section 6. Helping and defending oneself against the oppressor. This is in view of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, Allah loveth not that evil should be noised abroad in public speech, except where injustice hath been done, for Allah is He who heareth and knoweth all things. The Women, Surah 4, Ayat 148. He also said in this relation, and those who, when an oppressive wrong is inflicted on them, are not cowed, but help and defend themselves. Consultation, Surah 42, Ayat 39. Section 7. The oppressed one's pardon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in His context, whether ye publish a good deed or conceal it or cover evil with pardon, verily Allah doth blot out sins and hath power in the judgment of values. The Women, Surah 4, Ayat 149. Allah Almighty said, the recompense for an injury is an injury equal thereto in degree. But if a person forgives and makes reconciliation, his reward is due from Allah. For Allah loveth not those who do wrong, but indeed if any do help and defend themselves after a wrong done to them, against such there is no cause of blame. The blame is only against those who oppress men with wrongdoing and insolently transgress beyond bounds through the land, defying right and justice. For such there will be a penalty grievous, but indeed if any show patience and forgive, that would truly be an exercise of courageous will and resolution in the conduct of affairs. For any whom Allah leaves astray, there is no protector thereafter, and thou wilt see the wrongdoers when in sight of the penalty say, is there any way to effect a return? Consultation, Surah 42, Ayat 44. Section 8. Oppression will be darkness on the day of judgment. Hadith 2447. Ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, oppression will be a darkness of the day of judgment. Section 9. One should be afraid and should fear of the oppressed ones, invoking Allah against him. Hadith number 2448. Ibn Abbas radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent Mu'adh to Yemen and said, be afraid from the curse of the oppressed, since there is no screen between his invocation and Allah. Section 10. If one wronged another, he should beg him so as to forgive him. Hadith number 2449. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever has oppressed another person concerning his reputation or anything else, he should beg him to forgive him before the day of judgment, when there will be neither dinar nor dirham to recompense wrong deeds. But if he has good deeds, those good deeds will be taken from him according to his oppression which he has done. And if he has no good deeds, the sin of the oppressed person will be loaded on him. Section 11. When one gives up his rights to another, then it is impermissible to cancel it. Hadith 2450. Aisha radhiyallahu anhu narrated, commenting on Allah, saying, if a wife fears cruelty or desertion on her husband's part, there is no blame on them if they arrange an amicable settlement between themselves, and such settlement is best, even though men's souls are swayed by greed. But if ye do good and practice self-restraint, Allah is well acquainted with all that ye do. The Women, Surah 4, Ayat 128. A man may dislike his wife and intend to divorce her, so she says to him, I give up my rights, so do not divorce me. The above verse was revealed concerning such a case. Section 12. When one gives permission to another without showing how much. Hadith 2451. Sahl ibn Sa'd as-Sa'idi radhiyallahu anhu narrated, a drink, milk mixed with water, was brought to the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who drank some of it. A boy was sitting to his right and some old men to his left. The Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the boy, do you allow me to give the rest to these people? The boy said, O Allah's Apostle, I am not to give preference to anyone over me to drink the rest of it from which you have drunk. The Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then gave it to the boy. Section 13. What about he who unjustly usurps the land of another? Hadith 2452. Sa'id ibn Zayd radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever usurps the land of somebody unjustly, his neck will be encircled with it down to the 7 earths on the day of judgment. Hadith 2453. Abu Salama narrated that he had been in dispute with somebody over a portion of land. He mentioned this to Aisha radhiyallahu anha, who said, commenting, O Abu Salama, avoid taking the land, for the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he who usurps even a span of land of somebody unjustly, then his neck would be encircled with it down the 7 earths on the day of judgment. Hadith 2454. Salim narrated from his father, Abdullah ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever takes a piece of the land of others unjustly, he will sink down to the 7 earths on the day of judgment. Section 14. If one is allowed to take something, it will be permissible. Hadith 2455. Jabala narrated, we were in Medina with some of the Iraqi people, and we were struck with famine. Ibn az-Zubair used to give us dates. Abdullah ibn Umar radhiyallahu anhu used to pass by us and say, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade us to eat 2 dates at a time unless one takes permission of his companions. Hadith 2456. Abu Masud radhiyallahu anhu narrated, there was an Ansari man called Abu Shuaib who had a slave butcher to whom he said, prepare a meal sufficient for 5 persons so that I might invite the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in addition to 4 other persons. Abu Shuaib had seen the signs of hunger on the face of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so invited him. Another man who was not invited followed the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Abu Shuaib, this man has followed us. Do you allow him to take part in the meal? Abu Shuaib said, yes. Section 15. Allah's saying, there is the type of man whose speech about this world's life may dazzle thee, and he calls Allah to witness about what is in his heart, yet is he the most contentious of enemies. Heifer, Surah 2, Ayat 204. Hadith 2457. Aisha radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the most hated person in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most quarrelsome person. Section 16. The sin of he who unjustly quarreled with another over something false, though he knew it well. Hadith 2458. Urwa ibn Az-Zubair narrated that Zunaib bint Salama had told him, Salama radhiyallahu anha, the wife of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, said, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alayhi wasallam heard some people quarreling at the door of his dwelling. He came out and said, I am only a human being, and opponents come to me to settle their disputes. Maybe someone amongst you can present his case more eloquently than the other, whereby I may consider him true and give a judgment in his favor. So if I give the right of a Muslim to another by mistake, then it would really be a portion of hellfire, which he has the option to take or give up before the day of judgment. Section 17. What about he who, when quarreling, behaves impudently? Abdullah ibn Amr radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whoever has the following 4 characteristics will be a hypocrite, and whoever has one of those 4 will have one characteristic of hypocrisy until he gives it up. These are, whenever he talks, he lies. Whenever he makes a promise, he breaks it. Whenever he makes a covenant, he proves treacherous. And whenever he quarrels, he behaves impudently in an evil, insulting manner. Section 18. The retaliation of the oppressed one when he finds his oppressor's money. Ibn Sirin said he could take an amount equal to his money he lent him. He took proof from Allah, saying, and if ye do catch them out no worse than they catch you out. But if ye show patience, that is indeed the best course for those who are patient. The Bees, Surah 16, Ayat 126. Hadith 2460. Aisha radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Hind bint Utbah, Abu Sufyan's wife, came and said, O Allah's Apostle, Abu Sufyan is a miser. Is there any harm if I spend something from his property for our children? He said, there is no harm for you if ye feed them from it justly and reasonably. Hadith 2461. Uqba ibn Amr radhiyallahu anhu reported, we said to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you send us out and it happens that we have to stay with people who do not entertain us. What do you think about it? He said to us, if you stay with some people and they entertain you as they should for a guest, accept their hospitality, but if they don't do, take the right of the guest from them. Section 19. What was mentioned regarding the sheds? Hadith 2462. Ibn Abbas radhiyallahu anhu narrated from Umar ibn Al Kotob radhiyallahu anhu, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away the soul of his Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam at his death, the Ansar assembled in the shed of Banu Sa'idah. I said to Abu Bakr, let us go. So we went to them, the Ansar, at the shed of Banu Sa'idah. Section 20. No one should prevent his neighbor from fixing a wooden peg in his wall. Hadith 2463. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, no one should prevent his neighbor from fixing a wooden peg in his wall. Abu Hurairah said to his companions, why do I find you disinclined to it? By Allah, I certainly will narrate it to you. Section 21. Spilling the wine on the way. Hadith 2464. Anas radhiyallahu anhu narrated, I was the butler of the people in the house of Abu Talha. In those days, drinks were prepared from dates. The Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ordered somebody to announce that the wine had been prohibited. Abu Talha ordered me to go out and spill the wine. I went out and spilled it, and it flowed in the streets of Medina. Some people said, some people were killed with wine still in their stomachs. On this occasion, Allah Almighty revealed, on those who believe and do deeds of righteousness, there is no blame for what they ate in the past, when they guard themselves from evil and believe and do deeds of righteousness, or again guard themselves from evil and believe, or again guard themselves from evil and do good, for Allah loveth those who do good. The Repast, Surah 5, Ayat 93. Section 22. Homes, courtyards, and sitting on them and in the roads. Aisha radhiyallahu anhu told Abu Bakr built a mosque in the courtyard of his house, in which he prayed and recited the Holy Quran. Pagan women and children used to admiringly look at him during this time. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was still in Mecca. Hadith 2465. Abu Sa'id Al-Khudri radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, beware, avoid sitting on the roads. The people said, there is no way out of it, since those are our sitting places where we have talks. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if you sit there, then you must observe the rights of the road. They asked, what are the rights of the road? He said, they are to lower your gazes on seeing what is unlawful to look at, refrain from harming people, return back greetings, advocate good, and forbid evil. Section 23. Digging the well on the way when there is no harm from them. Hadith 2466. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, while a man was walking, he felt thirsty and went down a well for which he drank water. On coming out of it, he saw a dog panting and eating mud because of excessive thirst. The man said, this dog is suffering from the same problem as that of mine. So he went down into the well and filled his shoe with water, caught hold of it with his teeth, climbed up, and watered the dog. Allah thanked him for his good deed and forgave him. The people asked, O Allah's Apostle, is there a reward for us in serving animals? He replied, yes, there is reward for serving any breathing being having a wet liver. Section 24. Removing the harmful things off the way. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated from the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, removing the harmful things off the way is a kind of charity. Section 25. What about the upper rooms and attic rooms? Hadith 2467. Urwa narrated from Osama ibn Zayd radhiyallahu anhu, once the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam stood at the top of one of the castles or higher buildings of Medina and said, do you see what I see? No doubt I am seeing the spots of afflictions amongst your house as numerous as the spots where raindrops fall. Hadith 2468. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu narrated, I had been keen on asking Umar about the two ladies from among the wives of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, regarding whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Holy Quran, if you two turn in repentance to Allah, your hearts are indeed so inclined. Prohibition, Surah 66, Ayat 4. I remained as such till I performed the Hajj along with Umar, and on our way back he went aside to answer the call of nature, and I also went aside along with him carrying a tumbler of water. After he had answered the call of nature and returned, I poured water on his hands from the tumbler, and he performed ablution. I said, O Commander of the believers, who were the two ladies from among the wives of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you two return in repentance? Prohibition, Surah 66, Ayat 6. He said, I am astonished at your question, O Ibn Abbas. They were Aisha and Hafsa. Then Umar went on relating the narration as saying, I and an Ansari neighbor of mine from Banu Umayyah ibn Zayd, who lived in Awali of Medina, used to visit the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in turns. He used to go one day and I another day. Whenever I went, I would bring him the news of what had happened that day regarding the instruction and orders, and whenever he went, he would do the same for me. We, the people of Quraysh, used to have authority over women, but when we came to live with the Ansar, we noticed that the Ansari women had the upper hand over their men. So our women started acquiring habits of the Ansari women. Once I shouted at my wife and she paid me back in my coin, and I disliked that she might answer me back. She said, why do you take it ill that I rejoin upon you? By Allah, the wives of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam retort upon him, and they may not speak with him for the whole day till night. What she said scared me, and I said to her, whoever amongst them does so will be a great loser. Then I dressed myself, went to Hafsa and asked her, does any of you keep the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam angry all the day long until night? She replied, yes. I said, she is a ruined, losing person. Doesn't she fear that Allah may get angry for the anger of the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and thus she will be ruined? Don't ask the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam too many things, and don't retort upon him in any case, and don't desert him. Demand from me whatever you like. And don't imitate your neighbor Aisha in her behavior towards the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, for she is more beautiful than you and more beloved to Allah's Apostle. In those days it was rumored that Ghassan, a tribe living in Sham, was getting prepared their horses to invade us. My companion went to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam on the day of his turn, and then returned to us at night and knocked at my door violently. He asked whether I was sleeping. I was scared and came out to him. He said that a great thing has happened. I asked him, what is it? Have Ghassan come? He replied that it was worse and more serious than that, and added that the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had divorced all his wives. I said, Hafsa is a ruined loser. I expected that would happen someday. So I dressed myself and offered Fajr prayer with the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam entered an upper room. Therein he stayed alone. I went to Hafsa and found her weeping. I asked her, why are you weeping? Didn't I warn you? Has the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam divorced you all? She replied, I don't know. He is there in the upper room. I then went out and came to the pulpit and found a group of people around it, and some of them were weeping. Then I sat with them for some time, but could not endure the situation. So I went to the upper room where the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was, and made a request to a black slave of his, will you get the permission of Allah's Apostle for Umar to enter into him? The slave went in, talked to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam about it, and came out saying, I mentioned you to him, but he kept silent. So I went and sat with the people who were sitting by the pulpit, but I could not bear the situation. So I went to the slave again and said, will you get the permission for Umar? He went in and brought the same reply as before. So I went and sat with the people who were sitting by the pulpit, but I could not bear the situation. So I went to the slave again and said, will you get the permission of Umar? He went in and brought the same reply as before. When I was about to leave, behold, the slave called me, the Rasul of Allah ﷺ has given you permission. So I entered upon the Nabi ﷺ and saw him lying on a mat without wedding on it, and the mat had left its mark on the body of the Nabi ﷺ, who was leaning on a leather pillow stuffed with palm fibers. I greeted him while still standing. I said, have you divorced your wives? He raised his eyes to me and replied in the negative. Then while still standing, I said, chatting, will you pay attention to what I say? O Allah's Apostle, we the people of Quraysh used to have the upper hand over our women, wives, and when we came to the people whose women had the upper hand over them, Umar told the whole story about his wife. On that, the Nabi ﷺ smiled. Umar further said, I then said, I went to Hafsa and said to her, do not imitate your companion Aisha, for she is more beautiful than you and more beloved to the Nabi ﷺ. The Nabi ﷺ smiled again. When I saw him smiling, I sat down and cast a glance at the room. By Allah, I couldn't see anything of importance but 3 hides. I said to Allah's Apostle, invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make your followers prosperous, for the Persians and the Byzantines have been made prosperous and given worldly luxuries, though they do not worship Allah. The Nabi ﷺ was leaning then, but on hearing my speech, he sat straight and said, O Ibn al-Khattab, do you have any doubt that the hereafter is better than this world? These people have been given rewards of their good deeds in this world only. I asked the Nabi ﷺ, please invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me. The Nabi ﷺ did not go to his wives because of the secret which Hafsa had disclosed to Aisha, and he said that he would not go to his wives for 1 month, as he was angry with them when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admonished him for his oath that he would not approach Maria. After 29 days had passed, the Nabi ﷺ went to Aisha first, who said to him, you took an oath that you would not come to us for 1 month, and today only 29 days have passed, as I have been counting them day by day. The Nabi ﷺ said, the month is 29 days. Really, that month consisted of 29 days. Aisha said, when the divine revelation of choice was revealed, the Nabi ﷺ started with me, saying, I am telling you something, but you need not hurry to give the reply till you consult your parents. Aisha said, I know that my parents will not advise me to depart from you, the Nabi. The Nabi ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said, O Nabi, say to thy consorts, if it be that ye desire the life of this world and its glitter, then come, I will provide for your enjoyment and set you free in a handsome manner. But if you seek Allah and His Rasul and the home of the Akhirah, hereafter, where Allah has prepared for the well-doers amongst you a great reward. The Confederates, Surah 33, Ayat 29. Aisha said, am I to consult my parents about this? I indeed prefer Allah, His Apostle, and the home of the Akhirah, hereafter. After that, the Nabi ﷺ gave the choice to his other wives, and they also replied the same as Aisha did. Hadith 2469. Anas radiallahu anhu narrated, the Rasul of Allah ﷺ took an oath that he would not go to his wives for a month, since his foot had been sprained. He stayed in an upper room when Umar went to him and said, have you divorced your wives? He said, no, but I have taken an oath that I will not go to them for a month. The Nabi ﷺ stayed there for 29 days. when he came down and went to his wives. Section 26. Tying one's camel at the pavement or in front of the door of the mosque. Hadith 2470. Jabir radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam entered the mosque, and I too went there after tying the camel at the pavement of the mosque. I said to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, "This is your camel." He came out and started examining the camel and said, "The camel and its price are for you." Section 27. Standing and urinating at people's dumps. Hadith 2471. Wa'il narrated from Hudayfa radhiyallahu anhu, I saw the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam coming, or the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam came to the dumps of some people where he urinated while standing. Section 28. Removing the thorny branch or what might be harmful to people from the way. Hadith 2472. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, while a man was on the way, he found a thorny branch of a tree there on the way, which he removed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thanked him for that deed and forgave him. Section 29. If there is a dispute over land where its owners wanted to build, then 7 cubits should be left as a public way. Hadith 2473. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam judged that 7 cubits should be left as a public way when there was a dispute over the land. Section 30. Forbidding robbery and mutilation. Ubadah radhiyallahu anhu told, we gave the pledge of allegiance to the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam not to be robbers. Hadith 2474. Abdullah ibn Yazid al-Ansari radhiyallahu anhu narrated that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam forbade robbery, taking away what belongs to others without their permission, and mutilation of the body. Hadith 2475. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when an adulterer commits illegal sexual intercourse, then he is not a believer, mu'min, at the time he is doing it. And when a drinker of wine drinks it, then he is not a believer, mu'min, at the time of drinking it. And when a thief steals, then he is not a believer, mu'min, at the time of stealing. And when a robber robs, and the people look at him, then he is not a believer, mu'min, at the time of doing robbery. Section 31. Breaking the 3 item and killing the pig. Hadith 2476. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the hour will not be established until the son of Mary, Jesus, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, descends amongst you as a just ruler. He will break the 3 item, kill the pigs, and abolish the jaza. Money will be so abundant that nobody will accept it as charity. Section 32. Is it permissible to break the vats or tear the skins of wine or to destroy any useless thing? Hadith 2477. Salama ibn al-Aqwa radhiyallahu anhu narrated, on the day of Khaybar, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw fires being lighted. He asked, why are these fires being lighted? The people replied that they were cooking the meat of donkeys. He said, break the pots and throw away their contents. The people asked, could we throw away their contents and wash the pots rather than break them? He said, wash them. Hadith 2478. Abdullah ibn Masud radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam entered Mecca, and at that time there were 360 idols around the Kaaba. He started stabbing the idols with a stick he had in his hand, as reciting, truth has now arrived, and falsehood perished, for falsehood is by its nature bound to perish. The Night Journey, Surah 17, Ayat 81. Hadith 2479. Al-Qasim narrated, Aisha said that she hung a curtain decorated with pictures of animals on a cupboard. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam tore that curtain which she turned into 2 cushions. They remained in the house for the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to sit on. Section 33. When one fights in defense of his property, Hadith 2480, Abdullah ibn Amr radhiyallahu anhu narrated, I heard the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, whoever is killed while protecting his property, then he is a martyr. Section 34. When one breaks another's bow or something alike, Hadith 2481, Anas radhiyallahu anhu reported, while the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was with one of his wives, one of the mothers of the believers, his wives, set out a wooden bowl containing food with a servant. The wife in whose house he was sitting struck the bowl with her hand and broke it. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam collected the shattered pieces and put the food back in it and said, eat. He kept the servant and the bowl till he had eaten the food. Then the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave another unbroken bowl to the servant and kept the broken one. Section 35. If one destroyed a home of somebody, he should build instead another like it. Hadith 2481, Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu narrated, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there was an Israeli man called Jura'ij. While he was praying, his mother came and called him, but he did not respond to her. He wondered whether he should continue the prayer or reply to his mother. She came to him the second time and called him and said, O Allah, do not let him die until he sees the faces of prostitutes. Jura'ij used to live in hermitage. A woman said that she would entice Jura'ij. She went to him and presented herself for an evil act, but he refused. She then went to a shepherd and allowed him to commit adultery with her, as a result of which she gave birth to a boy. She alleged that the baby was from Jura'ij. The people went to Jura'ij and broke down his hermitage, pulled him out of it and abused him, performed ablution and offered the prayer. Jura'ij went to the male baby and asked him, O boy, who is your father? The baby replied that his father was the shepherd. People said, let's build for you a hermitage of gold. But Jura'ij said to them, just let it be of mud. Produced by Islamic Music and Animation, narrated by brother Muhakeem U Abdullah.